Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you. Where are we? Wednesday, halfway through another week. And I thought I'd come on and do a Q&A. I haven't done one of these in a while, since before I went away at before the start of the season. So I thought I'd come on, talk about a few things, let you guys throw whatever questions that you have my way. Lots to talk about at the moment. Let's face it, what are we? 3 games into the season, 3 wins, 9 points, top of the table, transfer window still open. You know, lots of debate about, who should play. Should Mikel Arteta change the team? Should he stick with this winning team? So much to talk about. So please do fire anything my way. Any questions, anything. Let's just have a bit of probably about half an hour worth of football and Arsenal debate. More importantly, I'll start with just the latest as things are going on. I mean, I spoke about Pedro Neto yesterday and nothing's really moved forward with that as far as I'm aware. Yes, there's interest there. I don't think there's been any bid or anything like that. It's just a case of working out if Arsenal have the financial power to do this deal, if Wolves are even willing to let it happen, and what Jorge Mendes might be able to do behind the scenes to facilitate a possible move. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Pedro Neto. Nicolas Pepe talks ongoing with Nice to try and get a deal over the line. As I said, it's not the easiest deal to do just because of the finances involved and the wages. Even if he's on such big money here that even if Arsenal cover half those wages, it still leaves Nice paying an awful big salary, which in France, these clubs apart from PSG are not cash rich, so it's difficult for them to do. So talks continuing with Nicolas Pepe as well. And so yeah, please do fire away. Let's start talking. Let's start debating all things Arsenal. Lots of you getting involved already, saying hello. Daniel, Paul, Shembo, everyone's saying hello. And we'll start with, the big question. If Pepe goes RC, do you think there will be movement for winger? I'd be surprised if there's not, but Arsenal are not ones to panic. We've seen that. The new process that they talk about, they showed in January that they didn't panic if they couldn't get the player they wanted. When it came to the striker, they decided to wait. So recent history suggests that although Arsenal will try and get a winger, and the whole interest in Pedro Neto at the moment shows that if they can't get a deal done for Neto, if Wolves are totally unwilling to let it happen, and if they can't get anyone else who they potentially fancy, I don't think they're just going to go out and sign anyone for the sake of it. They'll wait, they'll keep the powder dry, and they'll go again potentially in January or later next summer as well. So I do think there will be movement for a winger. Yes, whether it's successful, it's impossible right now to say. Lots of you get involved. Daniel saying good morning. Ham saying hi, Charles. Oh, this is an interesting one. Shembo, thoughts on Isak to Newcastle? Yeah, not exactly Arsenal related, although he was very much heavily linked with Arsenal not too long ago in that January transfer window when they decided not to sign a striker and to wait and put all their eggs in the Jesus basket in the summer. Look, I think it's a very good signing. I think it's an awful lot of money. I think it looks like it's going to be about 70 million for Isak. If the reports coming out of Spain, just as I started this, basically those reports have started to break, the Newcastle are looking to get a deal done for him. I mean, it's a lot of money for someone who doesn't score that many goals. It's, Premier League's going to be a whole new ball game for him. But he's a very talented footballer, no doubt about it. He works very hard. He's very good with his teammates, links to play well, and has, outrageous talent. So if Newcastle and Eddie Howe can get the best out of him, then I think it's a good signing, exciting signing for them, and one they probably need. Although I have to say, Callum Wilson, I think is a fantastic striker, and I think he's massively underrated. Sorry, don't want to do Callum any disservice there. Aku says Arsenal's new policy is spend money to make money. What do you mean by that? Spend money to qualify for the Champions League and make money that way, or spend money to bring in good young players and then sell them on for profit? I'm not quite sure exactly what you mean, Aku, so try and explain that a little bit more if you want to. Oh, this is a bit harsh. Well, Reece Nelson's injured for a start, Scott, at the moment. Not going to be back for a month. And I don't think Neto is what you're describing him as there at all. I think Neto is a very, very good player. Before his injury, he was absolutely superb. And I don't think anyone would have complained if Arsenal had signed him before his injury. Yes, it's been a bit slow since he's come back from the injury, but he's playing in a Wolves side who don't create that much, who struggle. And I think you put Neto in a different team at the moment, and you see a very different Pedro Neto. I think he's very, very good. I mean, he was so good before that injury, so exciting to watch. and he's still so young. There's still so much to come for him. So I think he fits the bill in terms of what Arsenal are looking for, in terms of age, in terms of profile, in terms of potential. And I'd be all on board for Pedro Neto. I have to say, I think it'd be a really, really good, exciting signing. And you've got to remember, he's not coming in to necessarily be the first choice starter in the team either. He's coming in, to help out in a squad that Arteta is looking to build a squad. So there's plenty of options and top quality options available. So if someone's not available that weekend, Saka's not available, then you can just bring in Pedro Neto, and the drop off isn't that big. So it's not so. I don't think you're looking at Neto coming in and being a guaranteed start. Far from it. I think he'd be coming in as a squad player to provide what is absolutely essential cover as well for Bukayo Saka, because Arsenal need to sort that out, in my view, because he can't just run Saka into the ground. Yes, he's been very good of injuries so far. He doesn't really get injured, but you can only do that for so long. And it's not fair on him. It's not fair on his body. So he needs decent support. And it's quite clear, blatantly obvious, that Arteta doesn't trust or want Nicolas Pepe. We know that. That's why they're trying to move him on. Yes, Fabio Vieira can play on the right, but he's not a right winger. Marquinhos, very, very young. Difficult to throw him straight in. So Arsenal need, for me, it's an absolute priority. That's why they want a right winger. And I think Neto would be fantastic. Freddie P, hi Charles. Do you think Saka, Martinelli, and Saliba will shine new deals? I think you mean sign new deals. If so, when? I can't say when. It's impossible to. I thought Mikel Arteta's comments on Saka last week were really interesting, and how kind of bullish he was. And Arteta, I said it at the time, he's very sensible, Mikel, when it comes to choosing his words wisely and when to say things. And the fact that he seemed so bullish about Saka signing a new deal last week certainly made me think, it got my sort of Arteta radar up that something could be potentially close with him and getting it done. We kind of started hearing these sort of comments from Arteta with Orba about a month before Orba eventually signed his new deal. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that's quite far down the line. I know there's lots of talk about Saliba having already signed a deal and they're just waiting to announce it. As far as I'm aware, that's not the case. But, maybe that's something that I've just not heard. But I don't think that's the case. I think those talks are still ongoing. And for Saliba, I just don't see why he would have rushed into it this summer anyway, because, he would have come back here with massive trust issues, wondering, do they really trust me? Do they see me as part of the future? So he would have been mad to rush into signing a new deal straight away. He would have wanted to see how the summer goes, the start to the season goes, and then start just talking about that sort of thing after that. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't say when they're going to sign a deal. Do I think they will? I think they will. Yes. Well, I certainly think Saka and Martinelli will. Saliba, it's a bit of an unknown quantity because you don't know what he still thinks about Arsenal, and he says the right things and all that, but has he been hurt by the last 3 years? You just don't really know. And I certainly hope he signs a new deal, and you'd hope Arsenal are going to be putting an awful lot of effort into getting him to sign that deal. So fingers crossed, all of them will. If you're going to ask me right now, do I think they will? I'll say yes, but I can't say when, I'm afraid. Pete says, thanks, Pete. First of all, nice comments there. Do you think we'll make another sign-in before the transfer window closes? Yeah, I do, but before all the internet, Twitter aggregators suddenly jump on the comments, which always happens, I do think they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, just because I don't think they're going to panic. I don't think they're going to sign someone just for the sake of it. If they can get a deal done for one of their top targets, I think they'll try and do it, but then it all depends on if the price is right and all that sort of thing. So they're trying, we know that. I mean, Mikel Arteta has admitted it plenty of times. So personally, yes, I do think they will. I think they'll certainly try, but it's impossible right now to predict that it will definitely go over the line, because a lot of things have to fall into place for that to happen. And Neto, again, we're talking about there, for example, is going to take massive money, big money to get him out of Wolves. The Wolves are in such a strong position. The season started. They don't want to sell. He's on a long-term contract. So if Arsenal are going to get it done, they're going to firm up this interest, they're going to have to put the money on the table. And Arsenal spent so much money and they haven't managed to really get anyone out yet. That might change the next week or so in terms of who could leave, but they still really haven't managed to get anyone out for anything significant yet. And that just makes going for sort of 50 or 60 million or whatever Wolves might want for Pedro Neto doesn't make it easy. So I do think they will, but there's a big caveat to that in terms of, actually getting the deals over the line is not easy. How's it affecting the plans for the rest of the window? It's, they've got to have it in mind. There's no doubt about it. Arsenal spent huge amounts of money in the last two transfer windows. I mean, massive. The biggest spenders in Europe last year, right up there again this year. And as I said, they've not brought any significant transfer fees in. Yes, they've got fans back in the stadium now, which is a massive thing. And also the FFP rules, there was a big, they were helped out by the fact that what's happened with COVID, that those were factored into the FFP rules. But Arsenal have still got to keep an eye on them, and they have been keeping an eye on them. And I saw, obviously, the story emerged yesterday that UEFA are watching Arsenal and they could be put in a watch list and all that sort of stuff. Now, having spoken to Arsenal about that, people up there, they are very, very calm about this situation. They think that Arsenal are absolutely compliant with all the rules and they'll meet all the requirements and that FFP won't be an issue. But that's as it stands now. If you go and suddenly spend another 50 or 60 million on Neto and 25 million on Tielemans, I'm not saying they will, but if they did, then yeah, FFP will probably come into the equation and they'll have to do some pretty good accounting work to sort it out and try and make some sales. So it's something they will be definitely keeping an eye on. But from speaking to people yesterday about the situation, it's not something they're overly concerned about right now as it stands. And there hasn't been any contact from UEFA or anything like that. And Arsenal is still absolutely insistent that they are completely complying with the requirements and that they are not going to be in breach of any FFP rules as it stands right now. Do you think it's better we get backup for Partey? Look, it's better we get backups for every single player in the squad. And the thing is, with signing a backup for Partey, it's just really difficult because he's such a one-off player, and it's so difficult to find someone else who can really play that role absolutely perfectly because Partey's just so good at it. And it took, Partey's such a brilliant player, and it even took Partey a long time to really adjust to that role once Mikel changed the system and started playing him completely on his own. And that says a lot about how difficult that role is. So to actually someone as a like-for-like backup for Partey who can just slot in if Partey gets injured or anything like that, it is really, really difficult. So obviously I do think it's better, but I also wonder if the Partey isn't there, if it just means a bit of a tweak in formation instead of just bringing someone in and playing him, in the exact same role that Partey plays at the moment. So yes, of course, I think it's better. Absolutely, 100%. You want the strongest squad possible. Arsenal are going to be playing a lot more games this season, so it would be absolutely brilliant. But, having said that, I do think it's really difficult to find an absolute complete backup for Partey who's just going to slot straight back in because Partey's such a one-off when it comes to that position. Tielemans, look, everyone keeps saying, I get it on Twitter all the time. Everyone messages me, what's going on with Tielemans? Why aren't you saying anything on Tielemans? The fact is, there's nothing to say because there's nothing new to say anyway, because we're in the exact same position now than we were 2 months ago and it hasn't moved on. So it's impossible to really say anything new on Youri Tielemans because it just hasn't moved on. He's still a Leicester player. Arsenal haven't bid for him. Arsenal have held a long-term interest in him, but up to now they've opted not to press the button and to sign him. Whether that changes between now and the end of the deadline day, we'll have to wait and see. But as it stands right now, there's just no new update on Youri Tielemans. And I think it's frustrating, certainly for Tielemans. I think it's frustrating for Leicester because they want to know what's going on and it's not helping them. They had to bench him at the weekend because clearly it's affecting him at the moment with the all sort of what if type thing that's floating around in his head. Is he going to be there at the end of the transfer window? Are Arsenal going to come in for him? Right now, as it stands, no, they haven't. But, we've still got, I don't even know how many days left of the transfer window it is now. I can't even see what the date is, but we've got about a week left of the transfer window, haven't we? Just over. And we'll have to wait and see if they do push forward with him. But right now, it's just exactly the same as it was 2 months ago. It just hasn't moved on. Well, the plans for Fabio Vieira this season is for him to be a really influential key player in the squad. I don't think necessarily he's going to come in. He's going to be a starter, but I think he's going to play lots of games. I think we'll see him a lot in the Europa League group stages. I think he'll fill in a lot of positions. We'll see him come on as a sub a lot. But right now, I think he hasn't had a pre-season. He's basically doing his pre-season now, and that's not easy, especially for a new signing. It really hasn't helped him. and he's got to do that now while Premier League games are ongoing. So we saw him play for the under-21s. He played as a right winger. I don't think that's the position that Arsenal are really looking at him in. They're still looking in training. They're going to look him in game times and try and work out. He's that kind of player like a Thomas Rosicky, like an Alex Leb back in the day, who can play a multitude of roles across the midfield. And it's about really sort of finding the best one for him to operate in. He can certainly play on the right. We saw that. He played pretty well against Man United in that reserve game. Not fantastic, but pretty well. He can definitely play on the left. And he can play in the mid anywhere across there. He can even play at false nine. So I think the plan for him is to be a really strong utility player this season while Arsenal try and work out exactly where he's going to play. But I don't think right now the plan is for him to come in and be an absolute starter in the team. It's about adjusting, getting used to England, getting used to the Premier League, getting used to Arsenal, and then really sort of kicking on over the next couple of seasons or so. Is Pedro even better than Pepe? In my view, yes, 100%. I think he's better than Pepe, and I think he fits the bill perfectly for a Mikel Arteta player. Certainly a lot better than Pepe does. Pepe's a decent player. It's just not worked out for him at Arsenal. It's clear as that. He's had some really good moments. He's had a lot of really bad moments, and he's just, for me, he's just too inconsistent. He doesn't have the work ethic that you need to be a successful player under Mikel Arteta. He doesn't really have the football brain either, and that's why Arteta doesn't trust him. And that's not a slant on Pepe and his quality as a footballer, because he's a very good footballer. He's a very good finisher. But circumstances kind of worked against Pepe. I wrote a story, actually. I wrote a piece that I posted not long ago on social media just before I did this, looking at Pepe and why it hasn't worked out for him at Arsenal. And there's a lot of reasons that to change a hierarchy, the key players involved in bringing him to the club left pretty much straight away. Leaving him with Unai Emery, who was a manager who didn't want him in the first place. He wanted Wilfried Zaha. Then Emery went, Arteta came in. And for those first 6 months, Pepe played really well under Arteta, but Arteta was kind of playing a bit of a counter-attacking style in that run to the cup final and the FA Cup success, because of the players that he had that didn't really tick his boxes in terms of the formation he wanted to play in. Pepe benefited from that because Arsenal played on the counter-attack a lot, and Pepe, I thought, played really well and obviously played the key role in that FA Cup success. He had a decent enough season the season after that, especially the end of it when he scored those 8 goals in 11 games, whatever it was. But he's just not an Arteta player, really. He doesn't fit the system, certainly the system that Arsenal have got now. Bukayo Saka's emergence, which has surprised everyone in terms of just how quickly he became an established starter. That was really difficult for Pepe as well, because it took away one of the wing positions that he was kind of brought in to play in. So lots of things have worked against Pepe since he came to the club, but it just doesn't fit. He's just not the right player for Mikel Arteta, the system, or anything like that now, and that's why he's not involved. It's why Arteta doesn't trust him. I look at Pedro Neto, and I think he's absolutely the type of player who Mikel Arteta would trust, and would play. And so yeah, for me, Pedro is a better fit than Pepe. Daryl seems to agree with me. I think that's a little bit harsh, because, as I said, I think Pepe's done very, very well. Oh, Atty Bruce from St Vincent and the Grenadines. Brilliant. Good to have you on here, Atty. That's where I'm half from, believe it or not. My mum was from St Vincent. She lived there until she was 18, and then she moved over here to become a nurse. So yeah, very place that's very close to my heart. So good to have you watching, Atty. I hope you are well. People from New Zealand watching, Aiden as well, all around the world. Great to see. By Zaha, he is the real deal. Linked to Arsenal today. I'm not sure where that link came from, to be honest. I'd be surprised if there's anything really sort of concrete in Zaha. I'm sure he's probably a player they've looked at the moment, because they're looking for a winger, and there's not many better out there than Wilfried Zaha. But he doesn't really fit the bill in terms of age profile, that sort of stuff that we're looking at Arsenal when it comes to their signings at the moment. But I know he's getting on a bit, which sounds a bit harsh because he's not even 30. But I do think it'd be brilliant at Arsenal. I got to say, I love Wilfried Zaha. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And I think he'd cause a hell of a lot of problems if he came to Arsenal. I doubt it will happen. I can't imagine that they'll go down that route, just because history suggests they won't when it comes to their transfer dealings recently. But I'm sure he's a player that they've considered and they've spoken about in the offices. But whether they would actually really try and get him before deadline, it would be a surprise, but can never rule anything out in this game. Andy Love, hi Charles. Do you think Neto is worth 50 million? It's tough because transfer fees now are so crazy. It's like players are basically worth what the buying club is willing to pay. It's that simple. We can all have our valuations in a head of what a player's worth, but at the end of the day, they mean absolutely nothing. All that matters is what the buying club is willing to pay. And if Arsenal were willing to pay 50 million for Neto, then that's what he's worth because it will get the deal done. If you ask me, is Anthony Gordon worth 60, 70 million? Hell no, not even remotely worth that sort of money. But if Chelsea are willing to pay that, and that's what Everton want, then that's what he's worth because that's how the deal's going to get done. So, do I think Arsenal should pay 50 million for Neto? I mean, to be honest, I don't care. I don't know, we probably should, but I'm not an accountant. I'm not. I don't benefit from Arsenal's accounts or what money they've got in the bank or anything like that. I just want to see the best squad available. And if Arsenal can do that whilst, continuing to balance the books and not breaking any rules, then I don't really care how much they pay for these players. It was the same with Ben White, really. Did I think he was worth? Arsenal should have really spent 50 million on Ben White? Probably not, but I didn't care. I wanted him. I like the fact that Arsenal signed him. So the price tag I'm not really overly bothered about. I don't think any, to be honest, this season. I think a lot of the players that could have potentially been around the 23, around the first, knocking on the door of the first team, have gone out on loan. Patino, Salah's gone out to Hull this week. Flores went out over to Spain, obviously. So, and Hutchinson went at Chelsea permanently. So I'm not quite sure, really, anyone's going to get much of a look in this season when it comes to the 23s. I think they will. They've got a very young squad at the moment there, so I think we're probably not going to look at anyone really knocking on the door at the moment. Yeah, Pepe would be a loan. It's my understanding. What they're talking about in Nice at the moment is that it would be a loan, potentially some sort of obligation to buy at the end of it. But again, negotiations are ongoing at the moment. It's not been finalised, so we'll have to wait and see how those talks progress over the coming days. What happened to the Rafinha money or the Lissandro money? Well, Zinchenko was signed after that, after both of those, I think, weren't they? Wasn't he? I can't really get my dates right. I think he was. And so, yeah, it's basically probably money's gone there. That money's gone there. And also, I'm not sure it really works the case of, they're going to pay this guy this money. I think it's a case of, it depends on what Wolves are asking for. If you're sort of looking at Neto, so it's just hard for me to answer that question. Really, I think that they've spent a lot of it, huge amounts. I don't think you can question Arsenal when it comes to spending, or criticise Arsenal when it comes to spending, because they've spent an absolute fortune over the last 2 summers with barely any return. So, and they've done it again this summer. So I think they've spent the money's been put up. They've found a way of giving the club money to spend. They've spent it, and they will continue to spend it if they can get the right deal for the last couple of players that they're potentially looking at before the end of the window. If you're a betting man, I am a betting man. Would you be putting money on 1 or 2 signings? It's hard. I'd probably say 1, but it wouldn't surprise me if they sign no one either. So I think 2's probably pushing it. I hope 2. It'd be great if they did get in a winger and a central midfielder. I think that's definitely pushing it, but you never know. Arsenal have done some surprising things in the transfer market in the last couple of years that I absolutely wasn't expecting when it came to putting money up. So maybe they could get 2, but I think I would, if I had to put money on one of those, I'd go on 1, but 0 or 2 wouldn't surprise me. Do you think we should prioritise top 4 or Europa? I can only see one or the other. Oh, come on, Jordan. No, I think they should prioritise both of them. They could easily get top 4 and win the Europa League. They've got to go for the Europa League this year. I want to win that competition. Got unfinished business when it comes to the Europa League and Arsenal. Got so close and not won it. So I absolutely want to win that competition. And it is entirely winnable this season as well. So, but that shouldn't, them really giving the Europa a good go should not affect them in the league. That's what the whole reason why they've added to their squad and brought real quality to the starting 11 and bolstered the squad this summer, is to have a good go at both. They should be absolutely prioritising both. It should, in my view, absolutely not one or the other. Houssem Aouar, forgotten all about him. What about it? What about Aouar? Well, what about him? I mean, he's not coming to Arsenal. It's that ship has sailed a long time ago. He might well move, but yeah, he's not coming to Arsenal. Leon says, "Do you think Arsenal have the same fear factor as City and Liverpool?" No, I don't think so. Not yet. You got to do what Liverpool and City have done over a consistent period of time to get that sort of fear factor. I don't think anyone's going to be. I think everyone will respect Arsenal. I think everyone will look at Arsenal this season so far. I think they have absolutely improved. They've added to their starting 11. They're stronger all through the pitch with the additions of Zinchenko, Saliba, and Jesus. But they're not going to. You're not going to be fearing Arsenal if you turn up at your ground, are you? Like you would if it was City or Liverpool. So to get to that level, as you asked, they've got to win things. They've got to do it consistently, season after season. So Arsenal at the start of their journey at the moment. Those Liverpool, Man City are well down the road in their journey. They're so far down that road that they're now revamping themselves because they've been at the top for so long. And so yeah, for Arsenal to get to that level, they've got a hell of a long way to go. They're just starting off now. Is Zaha able to play on the right? I mean, he's better on the left, no doubt about it. I'm sure he probably can play on the right, but he's stronger on the left, definitely. What happened to the interest in Ruben Neves? Well, it's not really been pushed forward this summer. Arsenal really tried for him last summer, but Granit Xhaka staying sort of put an end to that. I think if Xhaka had gone to Roma, I think Arsenal probably would have signed Neves last summer. But this year, that's just not really been part of the conversation. And Wolves were very adamant last year that they wanted big money for him, and it's just Arsenal just haven't revisited that situation this summer. Simple as that. I absolutely do, Kai. I think it is deep enough for the Europa League. You kind of look at when Arsenal got to the final and semi-final and Wenger's time and Emery's time. I don't think the squad was any better then than they are now, than it is now. In fact, I think it's as good a squad of Arsenal players I've seen for a long time. And they're going to need a bit of luck along the way, no doubt about it. You've got to try and get your key players away from picking up injuries, because if Jesus gets injured, for example, suddenly Arsenal are not looking anywhere near as strong. So you're going to need a little bit of luck along the way, but you always do. But I think the squad is deep enough to have a good go at the Europa League, definitely. I was surprised. I have to say, I thought he'd probably stick around one more season. I thought he might get a bit of a go in the under 23s. I was really surprised about Charlie Patino as well. Obviously, there's no option to buy in that; it's just a straight loan, so it's a little bit different. But obviously, these guys, these things are sort of well thought out decisions, and Per Mertesacker would have been looking at that when it comes to Salah. He would have been looking at, who is ahead of him in the first team setup, who could be ahead of him in that setup over the next few years, and probably looked at it and thought, what, he's probably not going to make it, so let's try and make some money out of him. So I was surprised, I have to say, but Per has done an awful lot of things right since he's taken over Arsenal as the academy manager, so I'm not really one to question him at the moment. Don't even say it, JY. No, don't even say it. Okay, what are we up to? We're up to half an hour. I'm going to do one more. And if I haven't got to your questions, and your comments, it's just because everyone's been saying, so many of you, you're sending in the same questions. There's no point me repeating myself and answering the same question time after time. So I'm going to try and find one about something that I haven't answered yet. So many of you talking about Zaha, Tielemans, obviously Neto as well. Here we go. We're going to end on this one about the season. What needs to happen for Arsenal to win the league this season? What needs to happen? An awful lot of luck injuries to go their way, other teams to have a bit of a nightmare, and a lot of quality from Arsenal. I don't think it's going to happen. I'd be stunned. You can't say never. I mean, look, Leicester won the title not long ago, so you could never say never. But, you know, I don't think any of us, even the most optimistic of Arsenal fan, can really sit there and consider themselves as title contenders. I just don't see it. Liverpool, yes, have had a bad start. They're going to come back. Man City have had a decent start, 7 points from 9. I think City are weaker than they have been. I'm still really surprised they let Sterling and Jesus leave in the same window. I think that weakens them drastically in terms of goal scoring. You're so heavily reliant on Haaland now. But even so, you know, they're still such a good team. They're the team that everyone aspires to be. So I just can't. For Arsenal to win the league, so many things would have to go right this season. Like I said, in terms of everyone staying injury-free, nothing happening to Jesus. And the other teams to have a bit of a nightmare as well. So I just can't see it. For me, Liverpool, Man City are still the 2 best teams in this country by some distance. And I'm sure the top 2 at the end of the season, in whatever order it will be Liverpool, Man City, or Man City and Liverpool. And then hopefully Arsenal can have a really good push for third. So look, I won't sit here and say Arsenal can't win the title, but I can't imagine that will be the case. All right, everyone, that's it. Now we've gone over half an hour mark. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it all, as always. I'll try and pop back on next week before deadline day to do one of these if I can, because I'm sure you'll all want to get involved in one way or the other. Please do have a fantastic end to the week. Press conference is on Friday this week, Friday 1 o'clock, I think it is, although Arsenal changed that time right up until about 24 hours before. They did it last week as well. But at the moment, it's scheduled for 1 o'clock on Friday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And before that, I'll try and pop back on tomorrow and do one of my usual videos anyway. Thank you for taking part. Thank you for watching. I'll speak to you soon.